Hey guys, what's up? Caleb Downing here, and today we're going to go over the sick nasty 556 hub version suppressor from Jaguar. Let's get into it. Alright, so disclaimers right off the bat. Jaguar sent me this thing for free. Alright, they reached out to me over on Instagram, asked me if I wanted to do a review and do some video stuff for them, and I said sure, let's do it, and so here we are. So we're doing it. So I did not pay for the suppressor. If that mars your opinion of my opinion of the product, there's nothing I can do about that. But as always, we will give our unbiased opinion, our most unbiased opinion as possible, because everybody's going to have a bias. I don't care who you are, everybody has a bias towards something. I'm going to try to look at this thing as unbiasedly as possible, tell you where I think it fits in its own wheelhouse, what should it be used for, where does it work best for me, and maybe that will help you decide, you know, what you want to do about it, or if you want to do about it. Maybe this fits something that you need, maybe it doesn't, so maybe you don't need it. Let's get into it. Let's get into specs as best as we can. This is not on their website as of the date that I'm recording this, as far as I can tell, and searching it up and everything. This is in their Shorty series, so I'm going to run off Shorty series suppressors specs as far as what it's rated for and all that kind of stuff. The data points as far as diameter, length, and weight, I took those myself because I don't see them on their website. So that's just what happens when you have a newer product, and it's fine. So we'll get into that kind of stuff. We'll talk about what comes in the box, which is this. There's not a whole lot going on there, but that's fine. And then we will shoot this thing and give our opinion about it. All right, so let's start off with specs. All right, throwing these up there on the screen best as I can. We have a weight of 15.7 ounces. That is naked, no attachment, direct thread, nothing. Just the suppressor itself, 15.7 ounces. Length is 5 inches and 4/5, or 5 4/5 inches, however you want to measure that. It's the best way I could measure it. Almost 6 inches, but not quite. Diameter is 1.9 inches, or right at 1.9 inches, as best as I could tell, as best as I could measure. 1.9 inches, right under 1.9 inches, right under 2 inches, all right? As far as your other specs, I'm going to read these off the website, and these are for their Shorty series suppressors, so these should be the same for this. It's just there's some extra stuff going on here we'll talk about in a minute, but that should not affect this, all right? So this stuff here, it is calibrated for 5.56, 5.7, 17 HMR, 22 long rifle, interestingly enough, and 223. It is full auto weighted. I believe the material is Inconel 718 Inconel. Coating is Cerakote, and you have two different versions as far as I'm understanding this. You have a direct thread only, and you have a hub compatible version, and they give a recommended maintenance of every 2,000 rounds. Alright, so some of those specs are obviously going to be different, especially when it comes to weight. And why is this guy so thick and so heavy? Well, these are 3D printed cans. This is my understanding of all this. These are 3D printed cans. And kind of just jumping right into this, since it's 3D printed, they utilize a lot of technology that you just simply cannot do with a traditionally baffled can. So I don't know what kind of baffles and everything they have going on in here. I know there's some kind of a free flow system that they have. Everybody's got a different branded name of the same thing that means that it evacuates more gas out the front and tries not to shoot it back down the barrel or your gas port. They use different terms, but they all mean the same thing, my understanding of it. Something else that they did, since this is 3D printed, I don't know how well you'll be able to tell, but this has like a built-in shroud around it, like a heat guard, okay? Which is a big reason why this has extra weight. That's where a lot of that extra weight comes from, I believe, and obviously a bigger diameter. So it is larger in diameter, but you're getting a built-in, you can't take it off, it's just part of it, a heat shroud that goes around the suppressor. And honestly, in shooting this thing, it does work. I was able to do a full, well, depending on the size of the mag, a full 20 rounds, mag dump, full auto, just burn it down, and I was able to grab hold of this thing and unscrew it. Now, granted, I live in Alaska right now, and everything's cold anyway, so maybe I was already starting off at a colder temperature than most people would be. So if you end up doing that in the middle of the summer, probably not going to have the same results. But what I can say is this did not heat up. I was able to touch this thing longer than I would if it was a traditional suppressor, so that is working. That heat shroud is working. The flow, free flow, whatever you want to call that, that technology, that's where this guy shined. I know I'm jumping ahead of myself because I've already shot this thing. We haven't shown the video footage and all that stuff of it yet, but this guy did very well And in my opinion, it did the best of every 5.56 suppressor that I've ever used. And I don't have a... No, I do not think I have a 3D printed actual like dedicated flow-through 5.56 can. So this is the only one that I have, I believe so. The Sierra 5 is 3D printed, my understanding of that, and I think they say that it has some flow-through stuff, but it is not as good as this. For flow-through, this thing knocked everything out of the park. It was very good. It was very good. All right, we did kind of jump ahead of ourselves there a little bit. Let's back the wheels up a little bit. The stuff that comes in the box, which is not really even a box, you get this hexagonal kind of thing here, which is interesting, but it doesn't take up a whole lot of room, so that's fine. But what comes in here is you get your baggie, you get your suppressor itself, and you get a HAPA 28 direct thread. All right, since this is 5.56, it makes sense that this is HAPA 28 direct thread. This is the hub compatible version though, right? So that means you take that direct thread off and you can put whatever hub version thing you have in here. There's plenty of room on the inside. Once you add your adapter, you can fit a full size Sons of Liberty Gunworks Chemo mount in there, which is a little bit longer. That will fit. You can stick regular Chemo stuff. You could do the Griffin arm at dual lock. You can do the Breek arms. Can't remember the name of it right now. I should remember the name of it right now, but they have their QD system that fits in here. So every QD kind of hub mount that I tried to put on here, it all worked. So that should not be a surprise. That really shouldn't be a surprise. But sometimes people run that first baffle a little bit too far back, and then you can't use all those kind of mounts. But this guy did work, and he does work. So that is nice. That's good to know. I think that's as much basic specs and data as I think you guys probably want to know. Sorry, I'm spitting. Let's go ahead and jump to the range. Let's shoot this thing on some different hosts. Let's see how it works, and then we'll come back here and give our thoughts. I'm honestly not getting a bunch of kickback, blast back. I see fire coming out of here, and I do have the bootleg bolt carrier group in here set on the 3rd setting, so almost fully suppressed. But I'm not getting blasted out, surprisingly. Interesting, okay. Interesting. No significant gas back to the face. Honestly, no significant gas back to the face. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. All right, 12.5. Let's see how this guy rolls. Okay. This is right on the threshold as far as hearing and not ringing your ears. This is right there on the threshold. That 11.5 was too much. This guy's right on the threshold. Again though, no noticeable, significant, really noticeable gas back to my face. Which is nice. All right, let's move up. All right. Now we got our Jackal. This is about a 13.9, 13.7, something like that. See how this guy rolls. No ringing, no craziness, pleasant. I almost want to say that the 12.5 inch was a little bit nicer, maybe. Let's close this guy up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. It's not bad at all. Again. It's weird, had Bigfoot hit my truck. Anyway, yeah, again, no significant gas back to the face at all. Very, very pleasant. Very pleasant. All right, last but not least, we have our 20-incher. I mean, you're talking about as pleasant's gonna be. 20-inch ARs are a super fun barrel length to suppress because they work really well. They're very, very conducive in my experience to suppressing very well. My eyes aren't bugging out, my ears aren't bugging out. That gas to your face is not there. So whatever they've done to this thing significantly has helped reduce whatever that pressure is coming back at you. Better than any other suppressor I've used, I can say that right now. So when it comes time for a suppressor comparison, unless something happens to my other cans or I get a new one, you want low back pressure? That's this guy right here. Significantly, noticeably less gas to the face, if not zero. Like, I'm not getting anything. Best way to tell that is to run this thing full auto. So let's try that. With that, there was a little bit at the end, little bit of buildup in my right eye as far as gas coming back at you. From trying to kind of look at the camera, kind of trying to see around me and everything, I'm not picking up huge fireballs and whatnot. So, again, 3D printed technology, man, there's something to that. There's definitely something to that. But no gas. A little bit of gas. Little bit of gas, little bit of gas. But not like you would expect. Not like you would expect at all. Alright, so like we said earlier, this is, hands down for me, the best free flow, flow through, whatever terminology you want to use, 556 suppressor that I've used to date. Now, I haven't used them all out there, so I can't compare this to all the other flow-through style cans. I really can't, because I haven't used them. But for the ones that I've used, this guy knocked it out of the park surprisingly well. It was loud on the 7.5 inch as well as the 11.5 inch. Both of those, you need ear pro. Like, it's 556 in general, you're gonna need an ear pro, but that was sharp. The 11.5 inch and the 7.5 inch, those were very loud. 7.5 inch, that's kind of a no-brainer. That's a really short system. You've got to have a really good suppressor or a really big suppressor in order to tame that gas and to tame that sound and everything. So that's not really a big surprise. I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't quieter on the 11.5 inch, but once we moved to the 12.5 inch, this guy right here, the Foxtrot mic system, everything's gonna fall down. This guy is where things started to really tone down and become a lot more manageable. So that worked out really well in here. And this is a slightly different operating system as far as it being like a bufferless system. So that could have added to it a little bit. Whereas the 11.5 inch, that's just a traditional, you know, gas impingement system. Once we moved over to the 13.9, the Jackal, that sounded really good. And that's where I had to adjust the gas on the Jackal because this was not pumping so much pressure back into the system. It needed to be opened up a little bit to allow more gas into the system so that it would cycle better. So that's actually a good thing. That's a nice thing that the Jackal can do, or an adjustable gas system, an easily adjustable gas system can do, is you can tell if a system is set up to run suppressed and you throw one of these higher flow through cans and all of a sudden the gun's not operating right because it needs more gas. Well, that's because the suppressor's doing its job and venting those gases forward. The trade-off, like we just said, is this is louder on shorter systems. It's louder in general because it's pushing those gases and that sound. It's pushing all that kind of stuff forward, if that makes sense. Like I said, once we got to the once we got to the 13.9, that sounded really good. And obviously on the 20-incher, like that thing sounds, that thing's amazing. That if you have suppressors and you don't have a 20-inch AR, you need to get one. Just get a cheapy Palmetto State 20-inch upper just for funsies, because if you want to squeeze out the most pleasant sound that a 556 can have as far as your host on like a regular AR-15 platform, 20 inches, those things are, they're awesome. So, where does this guy sit with me? What would I use this for? Honestly, the fact that it is very, very low back pressure means it's very pleasant to shoot. So if I'm going to be sticking this thing on, I think this guy would do great, honestly, to stick on like the 13.9, the Jackal, something on that realm, something between a 12.5 and a 16-inch, something in that carbine length kind of system, and it would work phenomenally. Something that I noticed after watching the footage is this did not, well, from the shooter's perspective, this didn't have a large flash. But after watching the footage, I did notice that there was flash. This wasn't completely hiding the flash and everything, but there weren't big, huge fireballs coming out of here. It was more pencil-style jets of flash, if that makes any sense. Which, depending on your usage and what you need these things for, maybe you can't have any flash. Maybe that's a huge deal to you and you just can't have that. Well, then you probably don't want a flow-through can, because in design, flow-through is jettisoning stuff out the front of the suppressor in an effort to keep it from coming back down the back side of the suppressor. So probably don't want a flow-through can anyway. But if you are looking for a can that really, really shines, a smaller can, this is a sub 6-inch can, it really shines at reducing the back pressure, this is definitely something to look at. All right. So anyway, I'd love to hear back from you guys. Flow-through cans. Do you like flow-through cans? Like, what's the purpose of it for you? Is the juice worth the squeeze? You know, the extra flash that you might get, but the reduced gas in your face, is that worth it? Is that trade-off there worth it? What do you guys look for in these things? I'm definitely going to be adding this to the 5.56 suppressor rundown that I do. Try to do that like once a year as I get new cans and stuff. And it'll be interesting to put this guy head-to-head with other suppressors in its same size. And see how things stack up whenever I can shoot them back to back. But anyway, guys, I would love to hear back from you, hear your thoughts. Appreciate Jaguar for sending this thing out. Y'all be good to be safe. I appreciate you. Hopefully we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.